Hello, I am ibxtoycat, or at least someone who looks like him, and welcome back to another video. Today I have a vlog style thing for you all, probably already worked that bit out, because I wanted to talk about some terrible advice. That's a really weird start for a video, but basically I made a video called Bad Advice That Actually Works recently, and I was thinking about it, and most advice you get in the real world is actually pretty bad, but actually really works quite well, because when you just listen to how something sounds, it doesn't necessarily always go perfectly, but some advice is really bad sounding, but really does work quite so well, and why not share some of that with you in today's video. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Hopefully you all do enjoy the video. Like it if you do, because it helps out the channel a lot and feeds the wife and kids. As you all know, if you don't like the video, YouTube is starved, so make sure you you do that. Someone's going to take that seriously. Anyway, with that said, let's get straight into what we're shouting, and let's start by talking about the first piece of terrible advice that actually really does work, and it is to do with fast food. So fast food's more and more common. You can argue about whether it's good or bad. I like speed personally, and I'm sure most people do. But yeah, so fast food on the rise, and fast food chains on the rise, and that means that like my McDonald's and your McDonald's over there, pretty similar things. So if I go to your McDonald's, you go to mine, they're pretty similar. Or even like Five Guys, any chain like that, there's like expertise to be learned. You can be a master at ordering your Five Guys or your Subway or whatever particular chain you're talking about. However, the one thing I think people make a mistake of is when you go into a chain for the first time, which is more and more common because again, they're getting more common, there's like thousands of them. When you go into a chain place for the first time, I feel like your very first move that most people don't do, most people are just like, oh yeah, I guess I could do kind of like steak, I'll get the steak and cheese one. What you should do is you should ask the person at the counter what they want to make you. And this is something that actually stemmed from like Subway at first. I was terrified of the idea of Subway because it's like, if you mess up a Subway, if you have a bad sub at the end, you only have yourself to blame. If like all your friends are having fun eating their subs and you're like, oh, this is kind of lame, you can only blame yourself for making bad decisions. So, that was where I first asked, like, you decide. What do you like, Mr. Subway Man? And it throws off people at first, because, when there's a place that's like, have it your way. That might be Burger King, actually. But when there's a place that's all about, like, you pick the stuff, they get kind of thrown off when you ask them. But every now and then, I'd say like 50% of the time, the person at that fast food restaurant is going to be really kind of passionate about the food. Maybe that's why they work there. Or maybe they get free food, and that's why. And that means they really know how to, like, make it great. So, for instance, Five Guys, when it first came to the UK, I think I went to the very first store ever, just by accident, because I was walking around central London, and it was like, wow, there's this place. And I was just like, I don't really know what to get, Mr. Man. He was like, oh, well, you see, what I get is this, this, this. I can just throw that in the system for you. And I was like, yeah, that. And there's so many things. So, again, with Five Guys in particular, it's like, okay, grilled mushrooms. I wouldn't have figured they'd work in a burger, but they work amazingly according to this guy. And he's like, oh, yeah, mayo and barbecue sauce. And again, you wouldn't think that you're allowed to put two sauces in a burger, or even that it would make sense. Works perfectly. It's that sort of stuff that you can pick up from the people that work there, because they eat that. They've been eating that like hundreds of times. It's like going into a regular restaurant and not asking the waiter about his opinion, just being like, I'm having this, whatever. And he's like, oh, but the burger doesn't work like that. And you're like, no, you make it for me, I'm right. And it's like, the customer is not always right, because this is your first time and this is their 100th. Maybe you ask some advice. So there's your first pro tip. Ask the people at the fast food place what they want to make, and just do it all the time. I do it for fun every now and then. Like, usually there's circumstances behind that, but just every now and then ask for fun, and you're gonna get an interesting reply. So yeah, there's your first piece of advice when going somewhere new, or even if you just like, I want to mix stuff up, because they know their stuff. Like, they know it pretty well. Like at Subway once, got a half steak, half pizza sub, and you don't get that if you don't ask politely. But with that said, let's move on to the second piece of terrible advice that actually does work, and just to do with sleeping. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm really into my sleeping. Like I like to sleep. This is my sleep, I guess. Animation is not the right word, but emotion, whatever. Real life. This is how I'm trying to explain sleep to you. I value sleep a lot, and I'm sure most people do too. And because it feels good, right? And also, if you don't do it, you feel terrible. So sleep is important. We're all on the same page now. And the thing about sleep, though, is I feel like most people don't really get enough or get too much. Like, if you get too much sleep, I'd say it's like just as bad as not getting enough, because you just feel like, ugh, all day. So, yeah, what is the solution to this problem? My favorite one, and again, this sounds so terrible on the surface. So, like, also, if you are, like, under the age of, like, making decisions by yourself, please ignore what I'm about to say. But the best advice when it comes to like that morning, like get up and actually like want to start the day, is to like wake up, set your alarm like half an hour before you normally would. Most people do that anyway and just snooze and waste that last half an hour sleep. However, what I like to do is wake up my alarm half an hour before I usually get up and take some caffeine in any form. This started because I once like I put like a can of energy drink, maybe it was Lucozade actually, and I just like chugged the entire thing and then went back to sleep thinking, I'll be forced up. But what actually happens instead is it's one of like 3 outcomes, and all 3 outcomes are pretty good. So again, make sure you consult a health professional before listening to an internet cat about taking caffeine in the morning. It's probably not good for you, but but if you do it, you're either going to wake up immediately and be like, wow, start the day, yeah. And that's a good response, like, yeah, I got an extra half an hour of my day. I'm going to go watch Toycat's video on bad advice, or play Minecraft, or, you know, decorate my room, or I'm actually moving right now. But you can do all that stuff with your extra half an hour, or you can, so you can either do one of those things, or you can decide to be like, oh yeah, I'll just get back to sleep, and you're not going to be able to sleep because you're just taking so much caffeine. As I understand caffeine, it blocks your, like, sleep receptacles, so you just be like, I'm awake right now. You get that full half an hour of sleep. Most people, they set their alarm to snooze, and then they, like, you know, they sleep for 15 minutes, but it feels like a second, then they do it again, it's been another second. Oh, you got 2 seconds of sleep out that half an hour. If you've drunken an energy drink, or a caffeine pill, whatever it is, then you're going to get that full half an hour. So that's pretty good by itself, but the final cool effect is if you do manage to go back to sleep, you have the most vivid dreams ever. And again, probably not recommended, make sure you consult a health professional, but taking caffeine and then going to sleep doesn't even make sense, but it's good advice that sounds terrible. And again, it is actually pretty safe. There's a reason I do it and I go through that stuff. But again, if you're like an age where that's not good, consult someone that is not me, because I'm an internet cat, I'm not qualified. But it is a pretty cool way to either get actual sleep, or get, like, actual rest, I should say, get up early, or have some pretty cool dreams. You get one of the three, and what's not to love about that? So yeah, value your sleep more, because it's like a third of your life, and most people don't even think about it. That'd be like me. What do I do for a third of my life? Make YouTube videos. That'd be like me just, like, hitting F9 every now and then to start and stop recording, and just saying, like, don't really think about it, just kind of let it happen. No, these are somewhat thought out things, and so should your sleep, and so should everything in your life, such as fast food, and such as, like, I guess, socializing with people. Because the third bit of terrible advice, this sounds like it's a cross between terrible advice and self-promotional advice. So apologies if it sounds like either of those things. Well, actually, it's meant to sound terrible, because basically my third tip here is that if you live in any major urban area, there's, like, going to be some asterisks on this, but if you live in any major urban area, there is probably a decent percent of the population that is either foreign-born or, like, second-generation foreign-born, and, you know, most countries are made up of, like, you know, immigrants in some form, and that seems like a weird thing to throw into, like, a Toycat video, but the reason I say that is because learning geography is a really good socializing tool in very specific, like, to make new friends. So, if you want to make new friends, or, like, you know, meet new women, as weird as that is to say, really cool way to do it is to know the world better than your average person. And your average person doesn't really know more than, like, 6 countries. So if you just know a decent amount about the world, and let's say, like, 2 fun facts about every country, or every major country. That's, like, you know, like 60 countries we're talking about right there. If you know that, or if you want to be really lazy, just know about the, you know, the common countries that are in your area, then if you can do that, it's a really good, like, at least in my experience, like, if you just, okay, so let me give you a couple of examples. So, once, so I was out with a couple of friends because they were doing something or other, and there's this, you know, there's this girl who everyone's like, oh yeah, she's from China, and I'm like, oh yes, which bit of China? She's like, Macau. I'm like, oh, Portuguese China, and I list a couple of facts. She's like, wow, you're the one person that's ever known that. We get into, like, a full conversation from it. Boom, look at that. Now that's like an opener into, like, a, now you've got a conversation going. We're, like, good friends, almost, or whatever you want to call it. Same thing happened literally a week ago. Like, I met someone from Romania, and I was like, oh, yeah, you're from that place? And I was like, oh, I haven't heard of that. And he's like, oh, yeah, near that city. Oh, it's Cluj, you know, it's, like, their second biggest city. And he's like, wow, you know more than one city in Romania. That's more than 99% of people I met here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's in Transylvania. And he's like, wow, and you even know Transylvania separate. And, you know, I'm exaggerating the response. They weren't going, wow, it's like... wow, Toycat knows facts about the world and stuff, but it generally is. Again, this sounds kind of weird, but, like, knowing about someone's place that nobody knows about, I feel like is a cool thing, because everyone probably has, like, for some reason, like, my camera's getting really slow here, but sorry if, like, this is a really low frame rate on the other end, but yeah, basically, for some reason, like, everyone has, like, I guess these things they want to talk about, but most people can't. So, for instance, you know, I love to talk about video games, I love to talk about, like, weird YouTube culture stuff, but you can't necessarily do that with everyone, and that's what makes, I guess, the conversation special. You know, if you can have this conversation with everyone, it's not a high-quality conversation, which is why small talk, like, oh yeah, how's the weather going, that's why that's not too interesting, but talking about something that's, like, deeply important to you in some way, that's something a lot of people really do quite like, and for some reason, not for some reason, I guess for very obvious reasons, reasons, the place they are from that they care about immensely that nobody in this country they live in, or this city or this town or whatever, knows about is a really cool one. So yeah, learn geography, maybe at youtube.com/ibxtoycat, and you too can impress some friends and I guess you can impress some people, and it's like a good conversation thing. So how do you get more sociability skills? Learn geography. How do you get better food? Just ask the people at the place where they ask you how to make the food for you instead. And how do you get more sleep? By getting less sleep. Okay, there's your bad advice. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Like it if you liked it. Share it if you really liked it. Subscribe if you're new around here. And I probably sounded crazy for all of that. So cookie. Okay, she's gonna quickly save this. Oh, there she. She was like hidden behind the card. But yeah, okay, she's not coming out. She's hiding. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like if you liked it, share if you really liked it, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.